Hey, Adam,
Jeez,
one
why,
thing.
why do you think they called bumpers scary?
I don't know.
Because they come at the beginning, at the end, like bumpers.
Alex, you're a marketing guy. Do you like that design behind Paul? Does that SWOT logo thing look pretty cool to you?
Hey, I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, that's really professional, isn't it?
Well, this is a professional podcast.
I met her in a parking lot and was handed 2 little Yorkies. And the only person I knew that knew Yorkies was Paul. So I called Paul and said, Paul.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SoundCloud and subscribe today. Now it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sweet Talk, our weekly podcast here at Idaho State University's Continuing Education and Workforce Training. I am Paul Dickey, the video instruction manager and apprentice coordinator here at SWEET. And as always, our marketing director, Angie Wilhelm, is joining us. Angie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Happy it's a Friday. For those of you watching, this does release on Wednesdays, but we record on Fridays. Today, we have a really special guest. Some of you may be familiar with her from her brown bag lunch she just did. Today, we have with us is Andrea Schmutz. Andrea is an adjunct professor for New Hampshire State University, as well as BYU, Idaho. She's also the founder of Empowering Immigrant Women in Pocatello. Welcome, Andrea. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Of course. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Andrea S. Schmutz. So I am originally from the Philippines. I came here in the United States when I was 19. And then I graduated with my master's in international relations and political science. And so when I moved here in Pocatello last October, I realized that there is no immigration or refugee center. And then, so I decided to do this community group. It's called Empowering Immigrant Women in Pocatello. So basically, our mission is to inspire immigrant and refugee across Idaho, Pocatello. And we do this by, number one, encouraging them to gain formal education. Number two, we inform the public. And then number three, we motivate these women to develop self-confidence through their talents. And so that's just a little bit snapshot about me and the community group.
Okay, so I've got questions. So is there a large immigrant population in Pocatello? It's a very small community. So how much outreach do you have? And is it like something that you have to officially join, or is this a support group?
Yes, and so there are quite a lot of immigrants here in Pocatello. I was really surprised. I have many refugee friends and immigrant friends here. And so I actually called the Idaho Office for Refugees based in Boise, and I asked them for refugee numbers for Pocatello. They don't have it. They don't have one. They only have refugee numbers for Boise, and there's about, I don't have the correct number, but it's about 1,100 plus for this year for refugees.
Really?
Yes, in Idaho. But they don't have a specific number for Pocatello. And 44% of those refugees are from Congo.
Really?
Wow, interesting.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, Andrew, not knowing, what changes a status from just an immigrant to a refugee?
Yes. So I'm not an immigration lawyer, but give you a little bit, maybe just a snapshot, or maybe I'm not correctly very 100% correct. But I believe when refugee are people who comes here because they have they're experiencing war in their country, or a civil war, and then they come here and they become refugees, or sometimes they actually they're stationed in some like for example a big city, and then they couldn't get out of their camp until they got approved, right? They need to be approved first, and then after they become a refugee, I actually don't know, some of them they apply for a permanent resident card, and then there's another step, and that would take a lot of years. There was a friend who talked Tuesday, and she's from Pakistan. It took her family 18 years to finally get a refugee, like to get a status to come here in the United States.
Oh, really? So what kind of support do you provide the immigrants and refugees?
So our community group is really new, and we just started October 2022 last year. Wow. And basically what we've been doing so far, I can just tell you what we did.
Yes, please.
We were able to establish a free mental health clinic in Pocatello, free clinic, geared towards refugee and immigrants. And this is free psychiatric care. And we have a dedicated psychiatrist, 2 psychiatrists over there every Thursday. And the good news, we already have 2 refugees who came, who were seen by psychiatrists. So that's the first one we did. Number 2, we collaborated with Bridges. Bridges is a nonprofit who help refugees here in Pocatello. And then number 3, we did a refugee immigrant potluck gathering last July, and it was really fun. And then the last thing we did, we attended a July 4th parade with Pocatello Free Clinic, and then there were my friends from Haiti and from Ukraine came, and we like wave at the people, and we advertised the free clinic.
I have a question. I think this is such an amazing organization that can help immigrants with some of the challenges that they face in the United States. So you've covered a little bit about mental health for refugees and immigrants. Can you tell us a little bit about what other challenges immigrants and refugees face when they resettle in a new country?
Yes. So my friend from Ukraine, well, I was doing my speech on Tuesday at the Brown Bag conversation. She said her challenges were transportation. There's not really transportation here in Pocatello. I mean, the bus is like every, 2 hours, or very rare. And sometimes she even said to me, sometimes the bus didn't even come, came. And so she waited for an hour. So what she did, she walked for 2 hours from ISU all the way to her house. And she's pregnant.
Ooh.
And so that was one of the challenges. She said transportation. Number 2 that I can also see was work. So a lot of these refugees, they come here, and then they're like, for example, they're doctors, they're pilots, they're dentists, and then they come here and they don't have a job because they have to go back again and redo all of their works. Except if you are a nurse or a teacher, then you don't have to do that. Because a lot of it's on-demand job. It's like we need nurses, so they don't have to. So yeah, there's just some of those challenges.
Yeah, I can tell you my neighbor was a nurse, and she worked for a doctor, I believe, that was a refugee. And that woman had escaped a terrorist group that was, I believe, trying to kidnap her and her husband because they needed doctors to treat people in that terrorist group. So she left with her kids and walked for days to try to get to a refugee camp. And when she finally did settle in the US, she had to go through all of that training. Her credentials were not recognized in the US at all.
Yes, exactly.
So many refugees who come into the United States, they kind of have to reboot and start all over.
Yes, exactly.
So do they get does the United States provide, or organization provide, any sort of previous learning assessments to help them maybe test out, or do they really just have to start?
they really have to start.
Really?
I mean, it depends on your career. So in your major, so I'm not 100% sure, but if you're a nurse, you don't have you can only take the NCLEX and then you can start working. Because I have lots of immigrant friends who are nurses, like from Filipino nurses. They come here, they don't have to go back again. They just have to take NCLEX and I think English test, TOEFL or IELTS. Teachers is the same thing too. I have a lot of Filipino teachers who didn't have to go back. But if you're a doctor or a dentist or that kind of thing, you have to go back to residency for doctors. So 5 years, 7 years of training again.
So do you have many immigrants and refugees that maybe take a much lesser job because I need to provide income now, even though I have this high level knowledge, I have to do this because I need money for my family.
Yes, and that's the sad part. These refugees and immigrants, they have like masters, and some of them they're like have a good job in their home country, and then they come here and they become a custodial, or they drive a truck, or in their like very very minimal job. Like I have a friend who's like my mother-in-law's friend who's a doctor, and she became a medical assistant. And so,
yeah, and I imagine that might create some sort of stigma as well, because they come into the United States and they're from a foreign country, they have a dialect, and then they wind up taking these menial jobs. So I would imagine many people that they encounter day to day in the United States look at them and they have this preconceived notion of who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You're talking about the accents.
The accents, yeah, the dialect, the accents, and then they're working in menial positions, and many people just assume that they're in a certain station in life, rather than what they were previously doing in their original country.
Exactly, and I heard some really sad stories that so I'm a professor, and some professors that have accents like from different countries, they have fake accents. The students actually give feedbacks and say like, we don't understand. I'm getting, I need to have good, like I'm paying my tuition fee, so I need to get the education I want, and I'm not getting it. But if it's a British accent, then it's a little bit different.
I think a lot of us comes with these preconceived notions. So when someone comes into the country and they have to take these lesser jobs, or they have to struggle to go get that re-education or the certificates, what kind of support can they rely on from the community, or from organizations such as yourself? I mean, I imagine sometimes it's just a matter of having someone reaffirm, going, "Hey, we know the struggle you're going through, and just keep working, and you'll get that type of support."
Yes. So what are the support so you're saying, like, the question is what type of support that they can get once they come here?
Right.
So in Idaho, there are a lot of agencies based in Boise. There's the International Rescue Committee. There's Global Talent. Global Talent is it's an agency that they help immigrant refugee find the job that they majored in, and it's called Janus. There's so many agencies, but here in Pocatello, there's actually.
So I have a.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I have a question along those same lines. Like, I believe obviously whether or not your credentials are and what credentials are recognized by the US may be dictated by where you got those credentials or what country you're from. Is there anyone that can help refugees and immigrants figure out like whether or not their credentials are valid in the United States?
I wish I know the answer. I actually don't know. I think that's one thing that we're trying to figure it out. And I believe Global Talent will probably they're the agency based in Boise. They're probably the ones who can answer this type of question.
So I imagine that, you have different people from different countries coming into the organization, and they've have their own individual struggles and the reasons why they left. But do you find any sort of common theme of why people, what connects them once they join your organization? What brings them together the most?
In the organization, my organization?
Yep.
Yes. Well, they always tell me they just want like friends. They want to have friends. They want to hear other refugee stories or immigrant stories. And the good thing about this, two of my friends said, like, Pocatello has been very good and kind to them. Pocatello has been very friendly. And so just keep doing what you guys are doing. But they said, like, they have really good things to say about Pocatello, about the people Pocatello.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Because if you hear so many stories now, especially nowadays, of people not being kind to immigrants coming into the United States, and I myself know that if you're a refugee coming in, you really don't have a choice. It's the struggles you have back in your original country, and the political atmosphere there has kind of forced your hand to come to the United States. In some cases, it's either come to the United States or die. And I think more people should know that part of the story.
Exactly, you're actually right. I have a friend who's from Ukraine, and I asked her. She has a daughter, 3-year-old. She said, I asked her, "Do you want to go back to Ukraine, or do you want to stay here?" And she said, "I want to go back." I said, my lifestyle is there. That's I have a good life. She said, I had a really good life. And then she said, but now I can't go back because we're at war, and it's not the same Ukraine anymore. She said, we were forced to speak Ukrainian now, and because of the tension between Russia and Ukraine. And so yeah, some of them, they don't have a choice, but they have to move out from the country.
Yeah, I think a lot of us Americans are not aware of that, the struggles that immigrants have and what forces them into the United States sometimes. I mean, the whole thing is it's opportunity, but it's also, sometimes it's just life. This is how my family can survive. I think that's a message that is not told enough. So you say you have a friend that in the organization that is from Ukraine. I imagine that must have been a struggle for them, because people are staying in Ukraine also, but they're also coming out because it's war torn at this point. That must be a difficult decision, because they are leaving everything behind to come to basically come to an unknown.
Yes. So for her, she has, I trying to remember her travel, like how she got here in Salt Lake, but she said it was like Ukraine, Poland, Germany, Salt Lake, Pocatello. So,
wow.
And so she has like many before she got here, and that was not the first time. I think the first one was back in 2010 when there was like a bombing in Ukraine. And so she said she had nightmares. And the sad part, during July 4th, when I invited her over for fireworks, she said, no, I don't want to hear fireworks because it reminds me of the bombing in Ukraine. And so these are the things that we'd never even realized, like, oh yeah, what, I'm inviting her for fireworks. I realized, like, yeah, that reminded her of like the bombings in Ukraine.
Yeah, and for her, that means this is the second time she's had to leave her home country due to conflict. Right? If she came in 2010 and now she had to leave again.
Yes, I think it was done. I try to remember what happened.
Oh, I remember the conflict at the time. Yes. Wow. So you have this organization, and you're servicing these immigrants, trying to create this community. If someone is listening to this podcast would like to be part of that, how would they reach out to you?
I have a website, and the website is empoweриwixsite.com//EIRW. And so I'm trying to get funding so that I can change my website to, because this is a free website. I'm just
Right.
running it for myself, so it's free. But because of the conversation on Tuesday, my presentation, I've heard that someone wanting me to apply for a grant so that I can have more funding. And also I have an email address. It's empoweringimmigrantwomen@gmail.com.
Okay,
Well,
great,
we
great.
are almost out of time. This has gone so quickly. I do want to just state something real quickly. If there is anyone who is looking for free English language classes, those are available at Idaho State University. And then this January, Andrea is going to be teaching a course for us that's basically a college prep class. This is for anyone who wants to sign up, but she's very much going to focus as well on immigrant and refugees that are looking to get into school. But again, anyone is welcome. She will cover topics that people need to know when they're looking at the university process. That includes differences between community college and universities. She'll have guest speakers from admissions. She's hoping to have guest speakers from admissions, career counseling, financial aid. She'll go through many of the processes of getting some of that financial aid and admissions, as well as how to pay for the university as well. One wonderful thing about what she's going to teach also is some of the programs and resources she talked about today, such as global talent. She will be reaching out to as well, so that people who are in that immigrant and refugee population know of the resources available to them and how to navigate the U.S. College and university system.
Andrea, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate everything you're doing for the community. It's obviously very much needed here, and I hope to see your community grow and flourish. And thank you for being on today.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Angie and Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, if anyone would like to check out our offerings here at Continuing Education Workforce Training, you can go on to our website at cetrain.isu.edu. If you'd like to contact us, you can email us at cetrain@isu.edu, or you can give us a call at 208-282-3372. And if you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it. That way we can better serve our community. Thank you so much for joining us today, and be safe out there.